Okay. Hello, this is Maurice Parker. Welcome to the Maurice Parker channel. It's good to see you guys again. It's actually pretty late. It's like in the morning. I was just giving you guys my perspectives this week from the NFL and college football. Actually, this week in the NFL. First, I want to kick it off by saying, if you haven't noticed in the game in college football, we'll go to college football first. Ohio State Buckeyes and the Michigan Wolverines is a well documented rivalry in college football. It's considered the greatest rivalry, and I think in college football sports, these two organizations, universities, just do not like each other. A few years ago, Baker Mayfield. This is gonna be relevant. A few years ago, Baker Mayfield was with the Ohio State Sooners, and I believe that they did not want to shake his hand. He took matters into his own hand, and normally when you beat a big time school, you normally have your flag planted as a sign that supremacy, like this is our field. People don't even take kindly to it, but that's not really a regular occurrence. Throughout the game, it was close. Ohio State was ranked number two. Michigan was unranked. Actually, Michigan had this is really a down year, but as you know, in rivalry games, anything goes. Throughout the game, Michigan's defense kept them in the game. Making stops when they need to, turnovers. Both defenses, Ohio State and Michigan's defenses was playing outstanding. The final score ended up being 13-10. Unfortunately, what's going to get lost in the game was the fact that right after the game, Michigan players were celebrating. As you would, you beat a big rival, you deserve it. I did not notice, but going into this, Ohio State has not been Michigan in the last 4 years. So meaning those people who was freshmen and seniors are going to leave their collegiate careers without ever beating Michigan, and that's a tough belt to swallow. But it happens. But during the game, it just got out of hand. You see, Michigan trying to plant the flag in the middle of the Ohio State logo. Ohio State was not too pleased by it by anybody, but especially the rivals after beating you had 60 minutes to fight, and a big brawl actually kind of ensued in the fight. And then you saw the police coming in, the pepper spray in the fight. The running back, number 20, said the best. That's bad for college football. We had 60 minutes to fight. In the game's over. There's no fighting after the game. Unfortunately, what happens is when you play your hardest in football or any sport and you lose, people are gonna talk trash and understand. So when you win, it's cool. I know we say, "Oh, just don't let them win" and stuff like that. It's easier said than done, but there's a certain thing of respect that I do think that with the flag showing us that we owned your field and saying, "Oh, well, you put the public display out there publicly, people are gonna judge it." Whether it's fair or unfair, national media or not, I don't think that warrants. About I don't think that always warrants. To say, "Oh, you got your what kicked." I don't think on national TV they know what happened. We know what happened again. If you win at 13-10, it was a close, hard fought game. It just wasn't their day on the field. The other team was allowed to talk a little trash, and y'all, especially if y'all was going back and forth for the media, which they did, and unfortunately the tempers flared. But and that was just crazy to me how tempers just flared from there. But that's happened. I believe the same thing happened in the North Carolina Tar Heels game. And all these flag things that planting the flag, and unfortunately, I could see college football just saying, "Yo, you're not allowed to do that no more." And it's not about being soft or whatever. I think it's just to the point of we don't want to do the escalation one. I think even Michigan players actually got pepper sprayed on the sides of the cloud when a brawl happens, and it's to that magnitude. It's very hard to control players, and people's emotions are high, and they're just not going to control it. It is crazy. It is insightful. I think that those riots really, said a lot. But other than that, it was a good win. I would also want to say, entering that, I would get to the NFL. Some notable highlights you have to go over. So the Thanksgiving week was actually pretty good. So the Detroit Lions beat the Chicago Bears 23-20, but the key point in that game was the fact that with 30 seconds left, Chicago was basically in field. They had took a sack with 3-13. And the quarterback, just one timeout, mind you, and the quarterback's looking at the former head coach Flowers because he got fired. But and the reason was there was 30 seconds left. You normally, after 10 or 15 20 seconds go off the clock, you normally call a timeout, try to at least kick the field goal. They end up snapping the ball with 5 seconds left. So when he threw the ball, it's not it's down there and the game's over in the most bizarre way possible. And it was just inexcusable. And I get that, I'm not a coach on the sideline. I'm not the NFL coach on the sideline. I mean, it's easy for me on the TV to say, "What are you doing?" Daniel's doing, being in the zone in the game. It may be something up top to the total, but just the fundamental things I think, and I think that's crucial because I'm not going to advocate anybody losing their job. I think that that's very important to respect these men out there who play the game because it's not easy. Um, it's just a sad way to lose the game. The Dallas Cowboys beat the New York Giants. I forgot the score, but I think it was like 28, maybe 17. I think they beat the Giants, and then we had it was just a dominant performance by their defense. I think that's the first home game they won all year, but nonetheless, it's still a good win, and you got to give them credit for that. Moving on to the night game with the Miami Dolphins, they actually went to Lambeau to play the Packers. Miami has not. It is very hard for cold weather teams, warm weather teams to play in the cold. The one cold weather team I've seen do really well in the cold, honestly, has been for a few years has been the Jacksonville Jaguars, and that's just unique because it's very hard to play in a play in a cold climate, especially you go from warm to cold because your body moves slower and stuff like that. And then we hit the Friday, which is just crazy. So the the Super Bowl, the world champion Kansas City Chiefs played the Las Vegas Raiders at Arrowhead. It was basically a back and forth seesaw battle. It was 19-20. So what ends up happening within the last minute, Raiders are looking like they're driving out for the score. There's 13 seconds left. Somehow, the center does an illegal shift. He snaps the ball. Quarterback does not isn't talking. He does not expect the ball to get snapped to him. And because he snapped the ball, he fumbled and lost the ball. Now the controversy ended up happening was because normally it's a legal shift, the play doesn't count, but however, they let the play out, and Kansas City ends up winning the game. Some people was not happy about that, but hey, you find ways to win the game. They're 11-1. They clinch their playoff spot, I believe. So congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs for clinching the playoff spot. And this has been a down year for Patrick Mahomes, statistically, but you find ways to win the game. You got to give it to him. You got to give it to Travis Kelce, and they're still finding ways to win the game because of their defense. Moving on to Sunday's game, let's see, we had a lot of plethora of games. Well, first I'll talk about my Pittsburgh Steelers. We went to the Cincinnati Bengals, and it was a high, flat scoring game back and forth. Russell Wilson had like 430 yards. I think he threw like 3 touchdowns. Cincinnati had the game of their own where Joe Burrow was throwing crazy touchdowns as well to Chase, and I think he threw one to Higgins, and Brown had scored a touchdown. This game was a seesaw battle. I think the biggest difference in the game was both defenses had thrown. Russell Wilson early had threw a pick six, and then we end up getting strip fumbles. I think what has unfortunately happened to the Cincinnati Bengals this year is just been their record is really not indicative of how they play. Cincinnati's a tough team to play. Don't let that get mistaken by their record. It's just been unfortunate for the amount of points they have scored. It just seems like it's just not been enough. And Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow has been on a record-setting day. Um, I would also like to say that another game was the Indianapolis Colts and the New England Patriots. It was a back and forth battle. Anthony Richardson drove the Colts down. I think they was down at the goal line, had threw a touchdown, and then somehow his 2-point conversion. Um, if you ever seen Cam Newton, he's one of the best dual quarterbacks to play the game. He snaps the ball like how Cam Newton used to do. Snaps the ball, lines there, runs it in for the touchdown, push forward. I mean, you gotta give them credit. They showed that they was not going to surrender. They was going to keep fighting. I gotta give them credit for that. Another game to be mentioned is the Houston Texans and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Unfortunately, what happens in this game is that Trevor Lawrence is going to go for a slide. I'm sure. No, normally, if you ever played the sport of football, the quarterback slide, there's just sometimes where contact just cannot be avoided. But what happened is, Shabir has a brace on his arm. Normally, some players have that. Some people had to keep their arm in place. As Trevor Lawrence is sliding, it's like he's delivering him for him. Trevor Lawrence is not out cold. Now, obviously, his players, Evan Ingram, all of them came back firing, started hitting the fighting, and it doesn't justify it. I mean, he did apologize for the hit. It just looked bad. I get it. When a quarterback is a runner, you're going to try to do whatever you can because you don't want to be a situation where I'm going to use this guy as an example. Patrick Mahomes is very good at this, where he'll run like he's going out of bounds, but cut up the field. However, there's a difference between somebody looking like running and that in the sliding motion. Trevor Lawrence is well in the sliding motion. Mind you, this is a divisional rivalry game. Then we had the Baltimore Ravens. Before I go forward, I know the Baltimore Ravens. Before I didn't get to talk about them last week, but they did a wonderful job last week. Um, I forgot who they had ended up playing actually last week, but they did a really good job. Unfortunately, this week, when they played the Philadelphia Eagles, it was just a tough game. Uh, I think that their emotions and stuff was in it. I think that this was just not their day. They went to fight Saquon Bar. They went to try to tackle Saquon. It was the two best running backs. Saquon and Derrick Henry. It's this tough game. They unfortunately fell short. I do think that they probably will respond back because they're a tough team. The night game was between the 49ers and the Buffalo Bills, and let me tell you, that was one of the craziest snow games I might have seen, George. It just seemed like Bills Mafia has some dedicated fans because they went out there and shoveled snow for $20 an hour, shoveled some snow to get their seats and stuff like that to watch the game. Their team does not look the least bit intimidated about this cold. They kept running the ball. It seemed like 49ers couldn't get to slipping because the field was slick. And somehow Josh Allen was going off. And here's Christian McCaffrey. I got to talk about this. Unfortunately, had tore a PCL. He had came back from Achilles injury in running. As he was running on a pitch, he just felt non-contact injury, and it was downhill for them for the 49ers. It's just been a summary of their season. Unfortunately, has been that they have their pieces just have not been together all at once, and it's just crazy. But injuries do happen, unfortunately, part of the game, and now somebody else has to step up for them. Another thing I would like to say is that Josh Allen had one of the craziest touchdowns you ever see. So he had threw the ball to Amari Cooper in the 5-yard line. Amari Cooper's about to fall down. Cooper pitches the ball back to Josh Allen, who runs it in for a touchdown. And you're just like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this guy had just scored a touchdown. It's just crazy. And they end up winning 35-10. I would also like to just give a mention to the Carolina Buccaneers game went well. I mean, they went back and forth. Bryce Young was actually showing remnants of what he can do, given time. I think getting benched and stuff, and they didn't give up on him, and he's showing the growth. He's showing the steps. Sometimes not everybody's going to get it their rookie year. I think sometimes we give up on people too easily. Boom, Bucky Irvin for the Buccaneers did it well. Baker Mayfield wasn't having his best, but they came up and when the game went to overtime, won. In the 49 in the Los Angeles Rams game against the Saints, it was one of those crazy games. The Saints, unfortunately, Taysom Hill had went down with an injury, and that ended up happening. Now, the last game I want to talk about is the Monday night game that just ended between the Denver Broncos and the Browns. It was a back and forth battle. I mean, Bo Nix is looking like he is special. I know he got out of college late, but he's looking good. He just had to take time to adjust to the NFL level. It was a return game for Jared Judy, who had been previously with the Broncos, and he had balled out. He had like 203 yards. I think he had 2 touchdowns. They're just going to cover him. He was really motivated to play against his former team. I think the biggest difference in this game was the opportunities in the red zone. Jameis Winston, for as great as he's been, has unfortunately two pick six in the game, and you can't do that when you're near the goal line. When you're in the red zone, you have to at least come away with some points. But unfortunately, that's the pros and cons. Sometimes defense makes a great play, and that was that. I definitely do feel like, that's tough. But moving forward, I do think that these NFL teams are going to get better. They're going to be more stout. I do appreciate every single one of them. Those players putting their talents on display. Sometimes it just does not work your way in the National Football League or the college football. Sometimes you do not do the right things, and sometimes things don't go your way. I do want to say to anybody, just to those players, appreciate them, whether it's NIL deals again or the dollars again. I do think that you earn money and they do out there perform a job. It has to be tough. When they're out there putting your talents on public display, and even though people are talking about you as the player, I could see how it could get to them talking about you taking it a step further as a person. I respect those athletes. I am going to be critical when I think about how they perform, but I'm not going to be too critical because listen, those people made it to the highest of levels they had to make it to in their profession, and I got to commend that because not a lot of people can do that. That's a kind of it's amazing, and I can say that's brilliant. I want to see all people perform at the highest level. I want to see all of them do well, all everybody succeed. I want to see all the coaches. I want to see everybody be able to perform at the highest level, and that's what you got to continue to do. Normally we do other stuff on the show, on this podcast. I like talking about manga as well, but right now just showing in the NFL, I think we got to show the enthusiasm. The enthusiasm for the game of football has to be priority number one. Can you execute when the chips are down? Don't let the reps dictate the game when you are in the football game. I would say to these players, you have to go out there and execute your game plan. You know the mechanics, you know that how the play is designed to go. You know the way it's supposed to go. We might have somewhat of an understanding because I played high school football, but you know there's a certain way a play has to go, a certain design how it's supposed to go. There's all these moving factors. Plays are designed to be successful, but that doesn't mean they're always. Because you gotta remember, you got another people on the other side of the ball who has their plays designed to be successful. I would say never stop trying to be great and always find victory in the little thing. Uh, I'm going to say this quote by Chuck Nolan. I think this applies to great dynasties like the Steelers, the '70s, the 49ers, the '80s, '90s Cowboys, the Patriots, and the 2000 and the Chiefs. Champions, players, those who play at the highest level, the greats. It's not because they do anything exceptional. It's because they do the ordinary things better than anyone else. Converting on downs, getting the drive done, going on a 2-point conversion, playing in hostile crowds, rallying the people when the chips are down. Can you stand up when the pressure gets tough? And and we got to look at it too. Are we being overly critical or underly critical? When you play at the highest level, there's people's going to talk about you and all this stuff. And but I do want to appreciate every single one of you guys for out there playing hard. More content coming at you soon. Thank you for listening to the Maurice Parker channel. My NFL thoughts. Just let me know what I would talk. Would you like me to talk about next? What I can improve on. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.